fans are surely set to see a real beast. That's all for this show. Join us next time for all the news and analysis of European football on the Football Review. This program brought to you by Unbeaten.com. We celebrate champions.
The International University of Management, a Namibian university dedicated to its people's future, a hub of abundant opportunities.
We are IUM for life. We are IUM.
Good evening, I'm Maggie Forciero. In the news tonight, Labour researcher calls for urgent job creation. Former refugees threaten not to vote for any Swapo female presidential candidates. TVET students a priority for NASFAF. Namibia to provide insurance cover for farmers. And round up Business on One, Comments Corner, Sport and the weather. A local Labour researcher says there is an urgent need to address the high unemployment rate in the Commerce region. He also pointed out that there has not been economic interventions in agriculture and housing provision as suggested in the National Employment Policy of 2013, which called for the establishment of sectors that can create jobs in the country. The Labour researcher's remarks come after the Commerce Regional Governor released an alarming unemployment rate of 43%.
Community Voices proudly brought to you by Namdeb Diamond Corporation. Good today, better tomorrow.
Herbert Jauch adds that the unemployment rate in the Commerce region, especially among women, which stands at 46%, could be higher, as the Namibia Statistics Agency only conducted the labor force survey 4 years ago. Jauch also stated that the government's future industries such as green hydrogen will not address the unemployment crisis in the short term.
And it was agreed at that time that there's a specific need to focus on women and young people. And the interventions were around economic sectors that can quickly create thousands of new jobs. And that would be number one, for example, in agriculture, the beneficiation, not just growing food, but processing it further. Number two, questions around the housing. We have such a massive backlog in housing that a whole value chain of producing the input materials for housing locally, but also rolling it out at the scale that you have employment creation from the production of the input materials to the construction of housing, and that would be for many years to come. What has happened is that these concrete interventions did not take place, and there was no really developmental intervention, and now government is looking towards future industries like green hydrogen. And that will not solve the unemployment crisis in the short term. And I think this is the kind of mindset shift that needs to happen in government, that we are in a crisis, that we need to intervene now. And we also need to secure that there is a survival beyond jobs, meaning if not everyone can get jobs, and I think by now we know very clearly that wage labor there will be many people who remain excluded. And in that context, the introduction of a basic income grant is important alongside the interventions to create jobs.
During her State of the Region address last week, the Commerce Regional Governor, Laura McLeod Kashira, indicated that 46% of females between the ages of 15 and 34 are unemployed, while 40% of males in the same group are unemployed. McLeod Kashira noted that the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic crisis has worsened the plight of the youth.
The general unemployment in the region and youth unemployment, particularly for the youth age 15 to 34, stand at an alarming 43%, of which 40 are male and 46 are female. As such, unemployment among the young people in the Commerce region, as it nationally remains a fundamental challenge, as it leads to the prevailing socio-economic issues faced by our young people in the region. It is for this reason that all government structures in our region took robust and responsive intervention in all relevant influential sectors to ensure that young people overcome these emanating social economic challenges through some skills upgrading, income generating, and self-employment opportunities.
Furthermore, Yao states that the high unemployment rate among women reduces their chance of independence, noting that their reliance on men contributes to gender-based violence and makes them more vulnerable.
And so men are in a more powerful position. They are the ones who control the income, and therefore they often control then women. And women's chances of being independent and at least economically not being dependent on men for survival are much reduced. And that was very interesting in our pilot project in Ochivero, where we found then with a basic income grant, women benefit from it and they could leave abusive relationships. So it's very important to point that out, that the dependency of women on men plays into gender-based violence and makes women even more vulnerable. And that's why you're absolutely right that there must be a focus of enabling women to make livelihoods for themselves and their children, independent of men if need be. This dependency makes matters worse, and with mass unemployment and particularly affecting women, it is worse for women.
PDM Member of Parliament Ina Hengari tabled a motion in Parliament seeking to discuss and debate the youth unemployment crisis.
Community Voices proudly brought to you by Namdeb Diamond Corporation. Good today, better tomorrow.
Free shopping is back at Spar, where we're putting smiles on the faces of thousands of Spar Rewards customers when they win their shopping for free. Just shop any participating product, swipe your Spar Rewards card, and go big with 5 Roses tagless tea bags, 100s for just $41.99, and Baker's Eat Some More biscuits for only $20.99. Win your shopping instantly, only at Spar.
Female members of a group calling themselves former Namibian refugees repatriated in 1989 have threatened not to cast their votes for any SWAPO female presidential candidate in the 2024 elections. This follows appeals in the political circles for a women contender to succeed President Hage Geingob.
Miss Netumbo Deita, Miss Sarah Kuwangerwa. As they are thinking of they have to be presidents. Who's presidents? No, we cannot believe that if they really want to be our presidents, they better come back to us, tell us, answer us, give us our money, and then we go the way forward.
The group was enraged when they were denied permission to hold their second protest of the year at the United Nations House in Windhoek, where they hoped to receive information regarding alleged funds earmarked for their repatriation, which they claim to not have received when Namibia attained independence. If one of the women is elected to run for office, the group's female members have vowed not to vote for Prime Minister Sarakukongelwa Amadila and the Deputy Prime Minister Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah.
How can we have a president who don't want to work with us? How can we work with the person who don't want to answer other people? Is she going to read the trees? Is she going to read the walls? Is she going to read the animals? It's we, human, who are talking, especially women like her. We are talking. We tried to talk to her, to talk to a woman like us, so that we can sit around the table, and then we finish the story. But she refused totally, and yet now she has to be a president. For who? How can she work with us? If she really wants to be a president, she better change. Let her come back to us. Let us tell us. She's supposed to come to us and tell us what is there. They have got our money, we know. Let them give us our money. That is what we want.
The group claims to have more than 1,000 members, and recently some of those members traveled from the Zambezi region to join the demonstrations in Windhoek. One of the protesters emphasized the need for a meeting between the group and the two main female leaders to resolve the issue.
Mbaya haraku karaya kahogororwa mamahogororo ngatage ya mo 25 paife otatu tegerere tuke ya hogorore ngini nombiri ngengo sembaka taeturere turingika turimorwepo so tunorwepo menhara mwenyo detu inatumoni marwayo yuyena sigo mpaka oyo tatu konjere turimo streeta ngika otulimo tatuliri ndo maruvaro getu katunashi tuna aturarami pereki me bashume ndosha twadengere ndosha ndita tuvurwa iko kukareke turime ndosho manga eri muwana wa no maruvaro gao tatu mo maruvaro gao keskora ndeso turipo tuni morwepo ruringi otatururuma ya holike mene tumbo me sara kugongerwa tupate ni ndeta mpopi nase so twahara mu popi nase ireni kuse nongengo omwai mwapeochi maruako yuyena chitupeni nongengi na mchipe wako yuyena popiani kuchochiri peni.
I shall take this to the office.
More than a month has passed since they submitted their petition to the Ministry of International Relations, which was received by Ambassador Jerobiam Shanika, who said the ministry will respond to their demands in 7 days. The group is still residing at the Katutura Youth Center, and they have stated that if they are unsuccessful in Namibia, they will attempt to deliver another petition to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees office in Pretoria, South Africa.
Win free airtime with Learn on One. Tell us what's your favorite subject on Learn on One and win $50 airtime. SMS your answer, name, age, and the town you live in to 555. Standard T's and C's and SMS rates apply. Learn on One. Invite learning in.
The Namibia Student Financial Assistance Fund says it continues to provide funding to students registered with institutions that offer technical and vocational training courses. Representatives from NASFAF made the statement at an information sharing session at the Namibian College of Open Learning, where they indicated that nearly 400 students registered with NAMCOL will receive loans from the institution.
From the 621 NAMCOL students that applied for financial assistance from NASFAF this year, 384 are confirmed to receive loans from the institution. NASFAF says this is an indication of their commitment towards TVET students at local institutions. NAMCOL is known for offering students the opportunity to improve their marks, but they also have courses, tertiary level courses, including technical and vocational.
If you are already admitted, especially the TVET, you are admitted at this institution, we don't look at whatever qualification that you have. We don't. As long as you are registered here and you have applied and you've given us the full birth certificate, your ID. So that's the key. And we have seen that your parents are not getting more than 500,000. So if you are below that, then I will take your name. Then from there, maybe by next week, you'll get your fine award letter. Are we together? Yes. So please don't delay us. We want to start already. We want to close the system so that we can open for 2023. So there's no way we'll close this one if this one is still open, so that we can start with 20. We want to start earlier as well. Last year as well, it was the same thing. We started very late, simply because of the students, themselves. Even though we know they are pointing us, the institution also will know that we've got so far, maybe for now we are standing at 382. So they will know that 2022, NASFAF is funding the new intake 382. So they will know already, even when they are sending invoice to us, even when they are making follow-up, that from this 382, how many are paid, how many are not yet paid. So they are able to tell as well. Are we together?
Evelina Sinano, the NAMCOL area coordinator for Windhoek, said that the NAMCOL secondary education scholarships are mostly recommended for those who are vulnerable or those who are from marginalized communities, as well as those who are inmates at the correctional service and are furthering their studies with NAMCOL.
For that, we are well aware of the effects COVID had on our economy, which has therefore enabled disenabled people or our members of the societies to be able to fund for especially education and many other things. So this is where NAMCOL now comes in to really try and assist. We are all aware of the orphans and the vulnerable children or people amongst us who really do not have any dependent that can assist in funding their education. We have our members from the marginalized communities. In Namibia, we have, for example, the Ovahimba and the San communities categorized as the marginalized groups who are also unable to really afford scholarships, education, to access education. We also have, for the past 2 years, last year and this year, identified a special group of learners. These are the inmates, our inmates in the correctional facilities, and NAMCOL thought of also just extending a helping hand to those whilst they are serving their sentences, just upgrade their education so that they are better members of society once they have received their freedom.
Performance in terms of academics for our scholarships. So first, you need to be an admitted student. You have to have an admission letter that confirms that you qualify to do one of our tertiary programs, any one of our tertiary programs. And we are looking for cream of the crop academic performance. So the best performers is what we are looking for. Additional to those two criteria, we are looking at needy students because it's corporate social responsibility. We want to assist those who cannot help themselves. Under that, we are looking at orphans and vulnerable children. That is very important because of the nature of students we have in the tertiary programs. Our students are adult students. Some of our students are mummies. Some of them are wives. Some of them are already employees at other institutions. So we are looking for orphans and vulnerable children. So those two go together. 48-year-old employee of the Namibian Defence Force who has lost both parents is an orphan, yes, but they are not a vulnerable child. Do you understand where I'm going with that? Yeah? So orphans and vulnerable children. I cannot call myself a vulnerable child anymore because I'm somebody else's wife. So the assumption is that I'm well taken care of.
Muya further urged students who are having pending requirements and forms needed for the approval of their loans to go on the portal of NSFAF and make sure that all required documents are updated. He further said that the institution continues to pay for the tuition of all courses so long the applicant continues to pass.
There are different types of decisions, such as rational, habitual, impulsive, and coin tossing.
Let's get started.
The consumption of poultry containing food poisoning organisms, such as salmonella, but the danger to health can be dramatically reduced.
What about other organisms in the animal kingdom? Well, some animals are ectothermic.
Welcome to Lesson 5 for Grade 10 and 11 Mathematics.
Methodologies and approaches in order to produce relevant and suitable results.
Namibian insurance companies are often reluctant to provide financial cover for small-scale farmers due to the risks associated with agriculture such as climate change, drought, floods and diseases. The managing director of the Namibia Reinsurance Corporation said that the government is looking at index-based agricultural insurance to specifically cover losses caused by drought.
Namibia's Managing Director, Patty Karwaihe Martin, told Today on One that the purpose of index-based agricultural insurance is to help farmers recover losses caused by climate change, and in Namibia this is mainly drought. Karwaihe Martin added that the Namibia team is working together with the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform to differentiate between farmers who can and cannot afford insurance in order to provide premium subsidies in support of struggling farmers.
In Namibia, we have specifically two perils, which is floods and droughts that is impacting on the small-scale farmer. And being the reinsurer, we have also an additional objective to make sure that we do develop products for our customers, which is obviously the insurance companies. And as you have said, Namibia import currently 66% from South Africa in terms of food security. We as Namibia have a specific drive from our strategic plan that we have built into our strategies, that we at the same time addressing SDGs 1, 2 and 13 and number 17, which 1 and 2 is no poverty and food, which obviously, and zero hunger. Those two is obviously to make sure that in future that we secure food production for Namibia, and that's why we have the specific focus on our small-scale farmers, and then together with that goes climate change as well as partnerships, because we cannot do it alone. So together with our partners, which in this case is Swiss Re and obviously Government of Namibia and Fundesat, so we are developing a product where we are looking at how we can, and I think like my colleague has said, that the insurance sector is there to assist economic development, and how we see in Namibia and the rest of Africa, small-scale farmers and naturally agriculture employs 1 out of every 5 people that are employed. 21% in Namibia is coming from the agricultural sector, although the contribution to GDP is only 3 to 5%, which is much smaller because many of the small-scale farmers are just doing it for their own production or consumption.
Karwaihe Martin stated that farmers cannot just manage farming risk by themselves, and the limitations they face can slow economic growth, crippling the country's capacity to reach self-sufficiency and increasing poverty.
What we as Namibia want to come in is to make sure that these small-scale farmers can produce at larger scale. We're also teaming up with the World Food Programs to assist them to see how we can do better in assisting these small-scale farmers should there be a drought or specifically drought, because we're looking at index insurance where they are insured. We will be looking at a product where they will be insured and will be able to be put back in the same situation should anything happen. So if obviously index insurance is normally linked to the weather, and there's normally certain parameters that needs to be met. So if it's indicating that there's going to be a drought, it automatically will start paying out to the small-scale farmer, and they will be able to take this go and buy a seed and do another production. So the aim is to make sure that the small-scale farmer can get to the next level of producing more. And if they do that, there will be obviously enough to take to market and also to keep for them. So so that's where we are. We hope this product can come in the next year or two. We've identified North and Northern East Namibia, and it will impact immediately on close to 122,000 small-scale farmers.
Karwaihe Martin added that this intervention looks to equip insurers and farmers with tools and revenue to better manage risks and to ensure recovery from losses and damages caused by floods and drought.
We never thought that this would actually happen in our country, especially for the youth. Everyone wants to play soccer now because it's obsolete.
In other leading stories, the German embassy signed an agreement with the Wakapinya Environmental Education, which will see the non-governmental organization receiving 34,200 euros from the Climate Fund of the Federal Foreign Office. The organization will implement a project that will create awareness for environment and climate issues amongst the youth of Namibia. The project is expected to sensitize young people and school learners on their environment and its challenges, and also to provide them with information about the climate in general and climate change in particular. They will produce an online show called Youth Enviro Show, which will transfer knowledge and awareness and will air twice a month on social media platforms. German Ambassador Herbert Beck and Esther Ishiwa Haikola, the Executive Director and Founder, and Julia Kanyemba, the General Manager of Wakapinya Environmental Education, signed the agreement. There will also be a roadshow to be conducted in 3 different schools in Khomas, Omaheke and Hardap. Learners will be taught to create design and arts from recycling materials, which will give them an understanding of sustainability and teach them more about the concept of reduce, reuse and recycling. The produced items can be sold for an income.
Honestly, I've never been so anxious to flip a card.
In your whole life?
My whole entire life. I think it's because I'm probably used to Like I must
you used to be having the information
you know, I'm like, I know what I'm gonna ask her more. Now I'm on the other side and I'm just like, can we just and I can't flip the card up until it's my turn, right?
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation.
I think for me, art is important.
Ooh.
Art is everything. But I think first of all, it's important.
I think again, it's about being a nice person, isn't it? Just because somebody's being nasty to you on the road, or you don't necessarily have to be the same as them.
Always were told you needed to have X, Y, and Z. Like at school
By
already,
this
they're telling
age,
you what do you want to be. You're like, I don't even know what I'm now. I'm gonna know what I'm then.
I like football.
Like, relax. Let me just get through today.
This is a nice question.
Okay.
Let us
Is
hear
it about?
No, I wish it was. I wish it was about, but it's not.
Joseph Shifeni is standing by for Business on One.
Welcome to this evening's edition of Business on One. The Communications Regulatory Authority of Namibia, CRAN, says that the mandatory SIM card registration, which is scheduled to begin in January 2023, won't have an impact on consumers' right to privacy. This is in reaction to criticism from members of the public and civil society organizations who express concern over the legality of CRAN and law enforcement agencies accessing consumers' personal information.
The National SIM Registration Awareness Campaign, which aims to inform the public about the significance of the SIM card registration requirement in Namibia, was officially launched by CRAN in June of this year. The Chief Executive Officer of CRAN, Emilia Ngikembwa, reassured consumers that the information stored as a result of the SIM registration process may only be accessed through a warrant obtained by a judge or magistrate.
The information that will be stored as a result of the SIM registration process can firstly only be accessed through a warrant that is issued by either a judge or a magistrate. So the operators know very well that they cannot release that information just to anybody. There is a judicial process that needs to be followed before the SIM or before the stored information can then be released. Hence, our position is really that the right to privacy is not going to be affected by the SIM card registration process, because if you read Article 13 of the Namibian Constitution, it indicates that that right is limited in the sense that it can be taken away under certain circumstances, and according to those to the Constitution, those circumstances include where there is an offense that is being investigated or where there is a threat to national security. But even in those circumstances, the Constitution is saying there must be a warrant obtained through the judicial process. It's not just something that the operators can do without a warrant.
Namibia and the Kingdom of Lesotho are the only two African nations that have not fully implemented SIM registration requirements, despite the fact that more than 157 other nations have already done so. In terms of cybersecurity, Ngikembwa claims that the SIM card registration process aims to safeguard consumers from online fraud and other criminal activities.
Following the recent conference and expo regarding Namibia's preparation for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, we as a regulator believe that the effective regulation of technologies on par with international best practices and in the interest of national safety has never been more important. Namibia is part of a global community. Our citizen is no longer just limited to the physical boundaries of the countries that we live in, but it is extended to the internet, which makes our citizenship borderless. And one of the activities that countries around the world have done as a best practice, amongst others, to ensure that safety is through the registration of SIM cards. This therefore therefore means that once you register your SIM card, you also receive what we call a digital identity, which means that whatever activities you are doing online, we're able to identify you. As regulator, we therefore believe that the registration of SIM cards will therefore protect your digital identity, especially from cyber attacks and cyber crimes and all other illicit activities that are taking place online.
According to Interpol's African Cyber Threat Assessment Report for 2021, the continent has more than 500 million internet users and the world's fastest growing telephone and internet networks. Dikembwa further stated that the process of mandatory SIM card registration is a big step in the right direction for Namibia, as consumers will be able to access various electronic financial services in a secure digital environment, as well as online social services provided by the government.
The clock has struck for your daily business and financial news update. Brought to you by The Brief.
Namibia is not likely to default on its debt obligations despite the country being ranked highly by Bloomberg among states that may fail to service their debts this year. Economists have said defaults happen when governments are unable to meet some or all of their debt payments to creditors. It can damage a country's reputation with investors, making it harder for it to borrow the money it needs on international markets, which can further harm confidence in its currency and economy. FNB Namibia economist Rusa Nandago said at present they do not regard Namibia to have a high probability of default, as the country has the option to roll over its debt when it is due. Furthermore, she said most of the debt held by the government is domestic debt rather than foreign debt, which further cushions against the possibility of default. The government has indicated that they do not plan to issue more foreign debt. She, however, noted that the high debt will limit the government's ability to cushion the economy against external shocks, while an increased share of its revenue will be directed towards servicing the debt, which is expected to reach $140 billion at the end of this fiscal year. The Bank of Namibia has revealed that it has adopted technology in some of its functions, including the deployment of virtual bots to improve its financial intelligence monitoring function. BON Governor Johannes Gavagab told the Innovation Investment Readiness Week that in the past year they have redesigned processes within the bank deemed to be tedious, mundane and repetitive, and have undertaken an automation drive to enhance operational efficiency. As a start, they deployed virtual bots in the financial intelligence environment. This has enabled them to free their analysts from cumbersome and manual work which took days to complete. These days, they can focus on value-adding trend analysis. He said the central bank had also introduced chatbots and other automated technology tools to improve its stakeholder experience. They are also making use of chatbots and other tools to improve the system. In this regard, and in demonstrating their ability, they have crafted a fintech regulatory framework focused on innovation through which enterprises and individuals with innovative business concepts can present their ideas to the bank for consideration against the relevant frameworks of the bank and incubation. Telecom Namibia is planning to accelerate the rollout of fiber and connect thousands of homes after investing $148 million into the project. Stanley Shanapinda, the company's chief executive officer, said Telecom Namibia, which boasts of a 10,600 kilometer or 65% of national coverage national fiber backbone, aims to connect more homes and businesses with packages that start at 4 megabytes per second and up to 50 megabytes per second. Chanapinda said the packages can even go up to 300 megabytes per second. He added that these efforts continue to accelerate the uptake of fiber broadband solutions and help to improve digital adoption rates. The fiber deploying investment is part of Telecom Namibia's plans to invest over $2.3 billion in the next 5 years to modernize its network and improve quality of service. Shanapinda noted that the company also plans to rapidly increase its current population coverage and quality of service from rural areas to national roads to benefit the logistics and trade sector.
This was your daily Namibian business and financial news update. For in-depth stories, read more on thebrief.com.na now.
Now that is all we have for you. Be sure to follow us on our social media pages for more on the business front.
Due to COVID-19, many people lost their jobs, creating high unemployment, and they cannot provide bread for the young ones that are going to school.
I didn't know what to do anymore. Then I engaged with wrong friends whereby they introduced me to drinking and all these things. And then my life did not have any direction.
It affected my kids, our kids, and I felt like a failure as a mother, as a wife, and it wasn't a really good journey that I had in my marriage.
This person that is watching this program right now, may their life from today be completely transformed. In Jesus' name, amen.
Now we look at Comments Corner, your daily dose of comments from our social media pages. The Commerce Regional Police Commander, Commissioner Ishmael Basson, said they will investigate how an off-duty police constable who shot and killed a fellow police officer was in possession of a service firearm. According to the police regulation, an off-duty officer should book back a service pistol unless authorized so by the Namibian Police Inspector General. Peters says the Commissioner is spot on and the advice is crucial to all firearm owners. Hanye asked which officer is responsible for this task. Eric says the regional commander wants citizens to lose their property. Apollos wants to know the requirements of owning a firearm. While Kabunga said the advice of the Commissioner comes too late. That is all from Comments Corner. Be sure to post your comments on our social media pages for broadcast only on Today on One. Time now for Sport on One with Castro Ulumbu.
Good evening and welcome to Sports on One. I'm your host Castro Ulumbu. the Namib Lions Athletics Club has signed a 3-year memorandum of understanding with the Africa Institutional Management Services School of Sport to offer lessons to athletes on how to become sport administrators and coaches. AIMS is a program that is aimed at professionalizing sport through education and training with a national recognized qualification. The Namib Lions Athletics Club is a local athletics club that aims to develop young athletes, both abled and disabled, into elite athletes. The club's founder Michael Hamukwaya noted that the agreement with AIMS is a step forward in improving the adaptive sport industry in the country as part of their efforts to succeed with sports development.
Sport, as we say in Namibia, it has to be professionalized, and moving towards that, we also, as a different academy or sport club, we have to start different initiative. And now with this initiative with AIM, basically is mainly focusing, as we say, there are so many pointers that we're going to focus as we go, but mainly is to build the human resources who are able to do the capacity, to give them, to capacitate them in the knowledge of parasport or adaptive sport. And that is now through the Namib Lion Adaptive Academy. So this is the beginning, at least, of good way for us to go out there and impact Namibia in adaptive sport, and at least to grow also the industry where we have knowledgeable people, and when we are talking towards this sport, and only not knowledge falling within one institution, and what way we can do it better than sharing it with AIM. So it is really an honor to start this, and we are grateful that we are given this opportunity to start this partnership with them.
Part of AIM's objectives is to professionalize sports in the country. Tinil Young from the center expressed excitement following the signing of the MOU with the Namib Lions Athletics Club.
The MOU will be looking at collaborations in adaptive sport education and development, where we will be working on initiatives where we can, as Michael said, we can build capacity, we can upskill individuals who are working within that part of the industry, so that we can make sure that they are well-functioning administrators, well-functioning managers, well-functioning coaches, and that the needs of the athletes are really addressed. For us, it's important that as a complete industry, that we all function together well. We all function properly, professionally, and this MOU will really address those things within adaptive sport in Namibia. The initial period is 3 years. Upon review and further collaboration or further signing again after the 3 years, which I hope that Namib Lions will do. And I really hope that this MOU will spark the interest of Namibia to adaptive sport and what it is and why it's so important, why it needs to be done, and why these athletes deserve our attention. Because if we look at it, they are the medal winners in this country. So why not give them the attention they need?
The Namib Lions Athletics Club currently has more than 30 athletes, both able and disabled-bodied, registered. Thank you for watching. Catch us again tomorrow for more updates on Sports on One.
Thanks a lot, Castro, for the latest in sport. Time now for the weather forecast.
A look now at the weather forecast. The interior will be sunny and mild to warm. The coast will be partly cloudy and mild with fog patches in the morning. The wind moderate northwesterly to southwesterly. Now a look at the minimum and maximum temperatures around the country and beyond.
That is all we have for you. Don't forget to follow us on our social media pages. From me, Maggie Forciero, and the rest of the team, till next time, it's good night.
The International University of Management, a Namibian university dedicated to its people's future, a hub of abundant opportunities.
We are IUM for life. We are IUM.
I'd like to just explain to you a little bit about the formation of the Sea of Sand that we have in the Namib. What you can see now is just an overlay of a map, the Sea of Sand. We're just going to draw the rest of Southern Africa in here to give you a bigger perspective of where we are. We'll have Namibia over here. And we'll have South Africa below, Zimbabwe, Botswana and Mozambique on the outside. We are here in Swakopmund, and we've got a very small slither of dune field that you see here that's only 30 kilometers long, 5 kilometers wide. This is the major Sea of Sand, which includes Sossusvlei and Deadvlei, which goes into the south of the country and into northern South Africa there. So the beginning of the Sea of Sand that you see here today is in South Africa. We've got a very big mountain range here, known as the Drakensberg. And off the Drakensberg come lots of rivers and streams. The main river forming that we have to do with today is the Orange River. So millions of years worth of sand and sediments eroding down the mountain range into the Atlantic Ocean. In the Atlantic Ocean, we have the cold Benguela current that keeps the ocean temperatures between 10 and 14 degrees Celsius through the year. So in the south of Namibia, we've got a little town called Ludritz Bay. Offshore from Ludritz, we have the South Atlantic anticyclone that generates the southwesterly wind 90% of the year along the coast of Namibia. So what happens? Sand is forced out into the ocean. The Benguela current takes that sand and forces it back onto the beach. So effectively you have a dune forming in the south of Namibia. But that dune must get to where it is today, and it is taken there by this anticyclone. So that anticyclone picks up the dry sand, slowly forces it inland over time. If you look at these dunes here, these are long lines of dunes. You can actually think of those as waves in the ocean moving inland with a ripple effect in this direction, until there is a natural boundary in the eastern side. This is known as the Central Plateau, or the highland of Namibia. You can think of this as a wall going from south to north of Namibia. From the wall to the coast, there's a drop-off. So that'll be the definition of the whole coast from south to north, a very gradual slope. Off the drop-off is where we get all our dry river systems. It stops at the Central Plateau, the sand that moves with the wind. It cannot go any further, but it has to move somewhere. So this sand is still moving in a northerly fashion. It stops at the northern boundary, which is the dry Quisep River system. And like all the other dry rivers, this only floods every 3 to 7 years. The river flushes and it takes down all that water back into the Atlantic Ocean. So this is an overspill of the major Sea of Sand. Eventually this should fill up. It will close off this Quisep system. It'll look like a cut line. like the Tsondap River and the Tsauchap River. Eventually, the Swakop River will be the northern boundary, and then another dune field will start north of Swakop. It will fill up along the Omaruru, and eventually the Omaruru will take on the northern stance. The only time it will stop is when the source is finished. If the Drakensberg is completely flat, there will be no sand to send to grow our desert. But that's not a possibility in our new future. The Drakensberg is still very large. The oldest dunes are actually at the Namib Desert Lodge. Those are the petrified or fossil dunes. These are between 80 and 100 million years old. They reached the plateau first. They stopped there. With the press of water coming down the plateau over millennia, it pressed those into sandstone. So therefore now we have the fossil dunes, which are stable, and on the coast we still have the moving dunes.
Beautiful souls, this is Nikita Winkler and I am here to share easy tools for stretching that you can do just about anywhere. This is a demonstration, so what's most important is that you take the time in each position that your body needs to release its tension. In this session, we will stretch the hips. What you'll need are yoga blocks or books, thick books, or pillows, especially if you have tight hips. You can do this on a mat, on the floor, on a blanket, or even in your bed. Let's get started. So we're going to start on the floor with the soles of our feet together. I'm going to grab around the feet. This is a butterfly position. So in order to warm up the hips, I'm just going to flap the butterfly wings. And again, take your time. I'm going to lean forward, and here, again, if the hips are too tight, you can place your blocks, books, or pillows underneath. You might even feel a stretch in the back here. From this position, I'm going to take one arm right behind me, not too far from my body. The other arm, inhale, exhale, press the hip open. And come back to center. Change. One arm right behind me to lengthen the spine, the other hand on the knee. Inhale, exhale, press the hip open and back to center. Now we're going to lie down on the floor. And first, before I get started, I have to make sure that my body, my spine is in alignment. I'm going to just open up the neck area. And you can spend as much time as you need here, allowing the force of gravity to weigh on the legs to open up the hips. You can place your blocks, books, or pillows underneath the knees. And gradually, you can take the feet even further down and spend enough time in each position. From here, we're going to go into an internal hip rotation. I'm going to spread my feet to the side, lean the knees inwards. If you have a little bit more flexibility, you don't really feel the stretch, just take your feet even further apart to deepen this internal rotation stretch in your hips. From here, I'm just going to place my feet, and without repositioning the feet, I'm going to take my arms to the side, and then I'm just going to rock my legs side to side, keeping the upper body facing up, shoulders down. And then I'm going to stop on one side, take the lower leg over the upper to add weight to deepen the stretch. Release the leg and switch. Other side, lower over the upper. And back to center. Last part, I'm going to spread my legs as wide open as I can, and I'm going to just row the boat. So what's important here is that the knees don't lift off the floor. Make sure you row both sides.